Okay, here we are. Welcome to LinkedIn Live. This is Rich Wurzbach. This is my GreaseWorld podcast, and this week I'm going to follow on a visit I made to Philadelphia this week, which is the place of my birth. But this week in Philadelphia, it was all about the Department of War's conference, the DIBX, or the Defense Industrial Base conference. Quite an exciting time, and enough to prompt me to want to talk about some of the things that I heard and saw there, some of the people that I met, and really kind of give my feedback on the event. And so I've picked five key takeaways to talk about today in the podcast. And so I'm going to roll through them. I've got a few where I recorded some videos. I've got some that I'm going to talk about live here. And if you can't join me live, of course, you can check this out later, or you can share the link to this later with others that either missed out on the event and kind of wondered what went on, or those who maybe were there and just curious on what my take from it was. But I've put together my five things here. I've got five different areas as my takeaways. I'm going to talk about them one at a time here. But I'm going to start with basically something I heard throughout the event, which was bring the technology, bring us the technology. That, of course, being the various branches of the Defense Department. And so I started this off with talking about some technology that we have developed here, and it wasn't really developed with defense in mind. It wasn't military application. It was from my background in the commercial nuclear power industry. And so I'm going to kick this one off. I'm going to add
valve test stand where we've been working for years to develop solutions for grease analysis and relubrication of critical components in the commercial nuclear power industry. And I was able to meet with folks from NAVSEA this week to talk about these solutions and how we bring them to the Navy side of the house. So I've been sharing since earlier this week, I've been sharing how we're using that in our support of the commercial nuclear power industry. And we're going to find out where, what ships, and where that's a need, right? Because this week was all about delivering solutions to the warfighter, ready to go technology. And that is an eye-opening thing. It's not just broken down into pre-existing silos. If I learned anything this week, it was from somebody wearing a Hawaiian shirt that says, stop thinking conventionally about how we are supplying the warfighter. Start taking the technology that's being used, it's being deployed, and is effective elsewhere, and apply it here too. So you're traveling with me through our laboratory where we are analyzing fluids, industrial fluids, oils, greases, metalworking fluids, quench fluids. You know, we talked about the foundry that's necessary for supporting DOW this week, and the bending of metal. I heard some of the leaders talk about, hey, it all comes down to bending metal, shaping metal into the forms that we need for the tools that the warfighters need going forward. And we've been doing that. We've been developing that. So this is just an example of existing facilities, existing technologies that are being applied to other industries. And now we're going to bring it home for DOW and all of the things we learned about, all the equipment, all of the technology and solutions that are out there for the warfighter.
Okay, so the idea, my first takeaway was the messaging that I heard is bring the tech. If you've got it, if it's in military applications, or if it's not in military applications, but And if it's proven, even if it's not proven, even if it's under development, DOW wants to hear about it. They want to see how they can bring that into a state where it can be leveraged for the defense industrial base, because there's some real challenges in where we need to be in terms of output and what we have in terms of what we're delivering today. So we've really got to find the new technology solutions that speed this up, that expand this, that grow it, grow the capabilities, and some of it's going to come from outside of defense, just like my example there with the motor operated valves that we started with there, that really came from the commercial nuclear power side. But it's not much of a stretch, from there to military nuclear side, especially, right? The ships of the Navy. And my time in commercial nuclear power, a lot of my colleagues there came from the Navy. Our own Ron Jansen, was on the Andrew Jackson submarine, nuclear submarine, and then spend many years in the commercial nuclear power. So there's a lot of those connections, and so some of these things are more obvious. Some might be less obvious, but it's all about bringing the tech. So that was my first takeaway, is that the DOW is listening. They're looking for it. They want to hear it. And I'll share some other specific ways in which that's being encouraged in some of my other ones. And so the next thing up is going to be expand the proven applications. Okay. And so let me get this other one up here, and I'll reset it if it's already started.
Expand the proven, but it really comes. Okay, for this next one, I'm again here in the lab, but I'm really standing in front of one of our displays that we use when we're out there in the field, kind of, at the shows and so forth, at the technology conferences, and sharing with folks what we've been able to accomplish so far. And I'm going to call this one Expand the Proven. Okay, so this week there was one thing I really noticed, and I'm putting it under the category of expand the proven, but it really comes down to breaking down the silos. I sat into so many sessions this week where you had a leader from DOW, but then you had representatives from all the branches. And instead of in the past where it would be, oh, the Navy guys are talking in that room, and if you want to meet up with the Air Force, they're going to be later today and so forth. But they're in the room at the same time talking about the same issues. Because they're not the same, right? They have different missions and so forth, but there's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of overlap of key and important issues. Some of them are technology, some of them are challenge related. I sat on one area that was about corrosion, right? And you find that corrosion is not just rusty ships, although the commander-in-chief did talk about rusty ships just about a week ago. But its corrosion affects everything, right? It affects the airframes. It affects, we even had someone in that corrosion session talking about the buildings and facilities, right? And how it impacts multiple billions of dollars in the defense budget. And so I want to use that as an example, but then say what we want to do is break down those silos, take the technologies that are working in certain areas or on certain platforms and say, can they be applied elsewhere, especially when they're proven? And so here I've got a couple of examples, and prominently right in front there is the profile of the Chinook. And the Chinook is a great example for us because we had the privilege of working with Boeing to address sustainment issues. And sustainment is key, right? We've got to manufacture what we need next and going forward, but there also has to be the technology and the strategies for sustainment, long-term sustainment of these investments, and cost-effective ways to sustain them in the field. And so when I point to the Chinook, what I'm talking about there is using grease analysis specifically to change the long-standing. When I talk about long-standing, they were talking about the 100-year weapon systems, and B-52 comes up all the time, but the Chinook is not far behind, dating back to 1962. So we're circling around for 100 years there in not too distant future. But what we're saying about that is, hey, over all these years of maintenance and sustainment of this platform, how have we gotten to this point? What are the inputs? And what are those costs justified, necessary, and really supporting the mission of that asset? And by looking at the grease, looking at, and again, back to industrial fluid optimization. This was an optimization project to say, what is the optimal, it's called the LOS, the Lubrication Optimization Study for the Chinook fleet. Are we using the right practices, the right intervals, and so on? And we found that we were not. There was not data supporting the current maintenance activities. So after 1,100 samples were taken, over 10,000 grease analysis tests performed, the finding was that we could extend the interval between grease lubrication, that we were just greasing way too often, which is a common thing. If we don't have the data that says specifically when is the grease getting to the end of its life, we go early, we go soon, we play it safe. And it's not safe because that results in less availability in the field. It results in more costs, more resources, and in some cases maybe has a negative impact to airworthiness and flight safety. And so we were able to extend, for example, the swash plate bearing grease relubrication tasks on the Chinook from every 50 flight hours to 120 flight hours, based off of data that was showing us that the real end of the life of the grease was somewhere close to 200 flight hours. What did that do? It made a difference in the availability, more than doubling the amount of time that airframe is spending in the field performing missions, right? From every 50 flight hours to 120 flight hours, and a reduction in resources. And those resources are the lubricants that are being wasted that are not necessary, the waste stream that's being generated that is not appropriate, the labor component from the soldiers and the sailors and so forth, and the result being Boeing saying this is saving $100 million every year in sustainment costs. So why just the Chinook, right? Let's move out into other airframes, other helicopters. The grease is everywhere, the fluids are everywhere. We're treating it like a blood test for machines, and we should take these success stories like the Chinook lubrication optimization study and find out where else in DOW, what other weapon systems can we apply it, and then in general for the fluids analysis, for the industrial fluids optimization, or what I'm calling IFO. That's not just in the end component, it's not just in the weapon systems, the vehicles, etc. It goes right into the manufacturing process. Because again, we don't bend metal, we don't shape metal without metalworking fluids, without quench fluids, without coolants, and without lubricants. And if we can optimize those through sampling, analysis, testing, and then modification of existing practices, we can not only reduce the resource requirements, but we can improve availability, reliability of the machinery that is making these important components for the DOW.
Okay, so there we are with the second takeaway that I had from this week, which was to expand the proven, and in this case, it's already proven in the defense application, right? But it's in one narrow space. That one narrow space, that one airframe, that Chinook airframe has this proven case, but the question comes, why not the Apaches or the Blackhawks or the Sikorskys? Why not the fixed wing aircraft? Why not some of the ground-based systems? Because they're all grease lubricated, oil lubricated machines that could really benefit in this similar manner from having the data that allows us to optimize from that sustainment piece. So this is my response. This is why I'm excited, right? Because I'm hearing this messaging at DIBX, or the Defense Industrial Base Accelerator, from this week, saying we want this information, we want these examples. And so I'm coming back and saying it's out there. It's definitely out there. It's on the commercial side. It may already be on the defense side, just not adopted in the areas that it can be. And if you heard me talking there, I was saying this industrial fluid optimization, or IFO, right? So that's, you're going to hear me talk about that, or you're going to see me pushing that forward. IFO as a strategy to optimize the use of all of these different industrial fluids, and really use data to optimize their use, reduce waste streams, and so forth. It's not just in the final product. It's not just in the helicopter or the plane or the armored personnel carrier or what have you. It's also in the manufacturing process. So as we talk about the supply chain, and we talk about, you know, the metal bending folks, right? The metal shaping folks, there's these opportunities to benefit there. So yeah, we're going to get the workforce in place. We're going to be expanding the capacity, the capability that we have across the US, but we're also going to make sure that we're using technologies that keep that equipment running. Because if you staff a facility with the trained welders and machinists and operators and everything else, and then the equipment that allows you to make those parts are down, and you're not delivering on time, well, then we've kind of lost a part of that investment. So that's the takeaway for me, which is expand these proven applications, right? And take them from the commercial side to the military side, take them where they're working on the military side, and expand that out into other branches, other applications. It could be moving things like vehicles. It could be stationary things like structures, and we just want to make those connections. So it really falls on us as the developers of these solutions to bring them to these leaders in the MIB, the DIB, the Defense Industrial Base, just to make them aware, so we can move forward. And so that goes to the next piece, which is tell them what you have. Okay. And so I just told one of the stories of what we have as a solution, but there's some real developed channels for this. You don't just, you know, stand up in the middle of a room. I mean, I might do it from time to time. But there's going to be systems and opportunities and really programs that are meant to be the place that we can go to tell that part of the story, right? So I took a lot of the materials as I went through the trade show that we had there at DIBX, and some of them got folded up and put in my pockets and taken out multiple times. So I apologize. Some are beaten up pretty bad. I've got some notes that I've taken and things like that, but I want to share what some of these are if you didn't have the benefit of being there. So, this is really good too, is it is really well reinforced when you went to listen to these panels. And they would circle you back to, hey, there's a booth out here. We're talking about this opportunity, this upcoming event, this tool, this data gathering tool, et cetera. And so one of the data gathering tools that we heard a lot about is links. And it was a bit confusing because I think there was at least 3 or 4 tables that had some homophone of links like LINKS or whatever. And I kept looking at them and not sure if that's the one that we were talking about. But this LYNX is the one that I heard about from some of the leaders, the DIB leaders that were there. And so what is that all about? Well, links is designed to perhaps be thought of as something that can be an enhancement to SAM.gov, but it's our way of getting the story out on what our capabilities are and working to match that up to what the defense, what the branches, and and these organizations are looking for or have needs. And so you can see here, it's like a targeting networking, so we can kind of expand our network, align those connections, try to drive relevance, try to drive results. It's personalized, and then there's this kind of AI powered opportunity matching out there. So there's been things in the past, right? There's different, SAM.gov is a way to go searching for stuff. There's some commercial things where they'll kind of listen in on the SAM notices and so forth. But this is meant to be more direct contact. And so I jumped right into it. I clicked on the QR code, and I already started my links process. I filled out some things, and I was actually able to feed right back to one of the contractors that's working on this program and give them some feedback, some tweaks that on enhancing it. One of the big enhancements that I really think that it needs and would benefit from is having the ability to upload a sort of catalog that as you go through this onboarding process, it asks you to input like what are the different services and what are the different products that you own, and you got to like type them in one at a time. So I said, look, just have an XLS CSV kind of upload functionality where we can copy and paste and build that up. So it's something they're working on, and I'm sure it's something that'll come around. But that's one, is the link system, and I think it was links.io, or the one on this handout. It says www.forlinks forlynx.com as being kind of to find out more about it. But yeah, it's out there. And then I also heard from folks at the event, and so I'll throw the opportunities for improvement or maybe the shortcomings a little bit with all the exciting stuff I'm talking about. But there was even in one of the sessions a question from one of the branches from someone saying, hey, they didn't even give us access to this yet. And so, hey, if we as the suppliers in the Defense Industrial Base are going to take our time to put all our information in here, your success is going to be, I think, higher if we recognize that there's someone listening at the other end, right? So I guess it's being phased out in sections, but that was one feedback point that we heard. It's like, we really got to put this tool in the hands, of the people that are looking to make the connections to the awarded contracts. And it sounds like that's coming. What else did we have? Well, there's some of the individual sites were there, which is really interesting, like Letterkenny and Toby Hanna. This was Red River, and I stopped by to speak to the folks there. The Red River Contracting Command had some very specific stuff here, and it says think umbrella solicitation, and then the specific areas of interest, or what they say AOI, areas of interest, and just an opportunity to submit, right? We're not waiting for that magic window of opportunity to put something in on a SAM solicitation that pops up and is gone a few weeks later. This is where, hey, we have a solution. Maybe the Army in this case isn't even aware of it, hasn't even thought to ask for it because they don't know it's out there. They don't know it's a proven solution, or maybe it's not proven quite yet, but it has promise, and it shows that there's work being done towards a solution that would be of great value to these end users. And so that's what you get out of this is the ability, and really this is a link back to SAM, this particular one. That's what the QR code is here, but it's an open solicitation. And I heard more and more about these open solicitations where it's like, just scrape it all in, just bring it into us. And it circles back to, where I started, which was, bring the tech, right? And then let us know what you have. So using these tools. So some of the individual sites, they have their own, existing areas of interest, existing standing solicitations that are going to be out there all year round. And that was another helpful one that I got to talk to the folks there and find out more. And then even like not the military itself, but some of the agencies that are out there to help us. Okay, and you'll see in a minute. I'm going to talk about, or you're going to see me take a little bit more of a tour in my next video, and I walk right by the Mantech offices, which are right here. And again, it's another assistance agency that's working to expand capabilities and the reach and the scalability of what some of the manufacturers are doing. And then this one is from DVIRC, our folks down in the Philly area in the Delaware Valley, and they have a couple of really kind of unique ways of approaching this. Including this intermediary agreement plan that they were able to talk about. In fact, they were handing out like a little dog tag. They call it the Keystone Intermediary for Warfighter Innovation. So how can we get these developments and opportunities and technologies and solutions rolled up in a way that it fosters that communication to the end users? Because again, sometimes it's like you don't know what you need if you don't know it's out there. And so this kind of fosters those communications. And so DVRC and then locally here for us, Mantech, are two organizations in Pennsylvania getting that done. And then another one that was here was the ARM. So the ARM Institute, which is about robotics, and this consortium is also a Pennsylvania organization working out of Pittsburgh. So it was good to meet with those folks. And so there's some membership options that they were sharing, but really just events coming up and really trying to be that conduit. All of these are like agencies or, even end users, but they're creating these tools of conduit of the technologies, of the solution, of the manufacturing capability, of the scalability of manufacturing capability, and getting it to where it's needed in this supply chain for the various aspects of the defense industry. So what was that all about? It was about tell them what you have. Don't sit back and wait. Don't hope someday that there's an announcement that just perfectly matches up to the story you have to tell. Tell the story now. Get it out. Get it flowing to the decision makers, because and I saw that this week when I started talking about some of the solutions we have, whether I was talking to the Army Corps of Engineers or whether I was talking to folks at NAVC about kind of expeditionary maintenance tools and whatnot, the connections were like, wow, didn't know you guys did that, or didn't know you had that, or didn't know, both of those were examples of where we're doing that on the commercial side of things, whether it's hydroelectric stations or whether it's nuclear power plants that are using some of the tools we have. So the idea is let them know what you have and use some of these communication pathways and tools because they are listening. They're willing to listen. The next piece I'm going to play, the next video I have here, and it's going to be about something I'm calling converting the facilities. And this started early in the week.
Okay, for this next one, I'm again here in the lab, but I'm really standing in front of one of our displays that we use when we're out there.
Now, wait a minute. I already did that one, and I'm missing one. Okay, I'm missing one of my videos disappeared. I may have to bump somebody out here. Maybe we ran out of space. I'm going to have to, unfortunately, kick somebody out and bring back this other video file. I didn't realize it would do that. So let me bring up that file. And here we go. And let's bring this other one back, remove it. And so my last one here, I'm calling Convert the Facilities, and this addresses, you know, we've got to think big. The guy in the Hawaiian shirt, again, he was saying, maybe there's commercial facilities out there that need to become defense facilities for manufacturing. So let's find out what we have right here in York.
The next one I have up for my recap of DIBX this week is Convert the Facilities. And so I heard that a couple times this week. Even the guy in the Hawaiian shirt brought it up. And it's like, we need to use what facilities are out there, not just constrain ourselves to the traditional or current spaces that are serving for the defense supply chain. And so I'm delivering this from our facility, which is actually on the campus of York College of Pennsylvania. And this is a case in point for converting of the facilities. The building that I'm showing you here behind me is where we hold our offices and where we have some research facilities in the basement. I started showing you across the street where our main laboratories are present. And this is a converted former paper mill here in York, Pennsylvania. And the college is really doing a lot with what's available here. We're in the middle of a conversion process. Some offices have already been opened into the space, some of them being the organizations that are out here helping manufacturers getting what they need to be productive in serving both commercial applications and the military as well.
Yeah, Mantech.
This facility has additional space that is not yet finished, but is in progress. And we're talking about 50,000 square feet of space. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot when we talk about the overall demand that's out there to expand the capabilities that are needed for the Defense Industrial Base. But if you just look at, for example, what we are doing in our space with industrial fluid optimization, the analysis of oils, greases, metalworking fluids, and the quench fluids, coolants, and so on, we're able to look at this space as the opportunity to expand and to utilize further opportunities, or really be able to deliver additional opportunities and scale up in partnership with this university. And I think the other part that kind of makes this the non-traditional aspect is that we're not talking about, one of our established research institutions. We're talking about a liberal arts school, York College of Pennsylvania, here on the banks of the Codorus Creek. And we're talking about building out space that's really been dormant for quite some time, in this case as a paper mill. But when you look at what's out there in terms of resources, there's a lot of opportunity. And then also, we talked a lot this week about workforce, and we're talking about a ready-made trained workforce right here on campus. Yes, there's a lot of focus on welding, CNC machining, the other trades that are necessary to build out the defense supply chain. But there's also the technical aspects. There's also the advanced education that comes through the departments of science and engineering. So those resources are out there. This is another thing that we need to be thinking about. What do we leverage? There was talk about, hey, do we use existing and historical automotive manufacturing facilities to convert them into production for the Defense Industrial Base? And in this case, here's a paper mill that is standing ready in the process of converting to be the kind of facility that can expand and address things like industrial fluid optimization, which really hits every aspect of the manufacturing supply chain from a metalworking and just kind of mechanical solution perspective.
Okay, so that was number 4, convert the facilities, and it's really the practical part of this. Uh, we can't do this timidly. We can't just add a little capacity here and add a little capacity there. We need to be ready to bring online as quickly as possible manufacturing capacity, capability, the support industries, the support technologies that make it efficient and productive. We need to do it quickly. And so I gave my example of converting facilities that are really close to home, not just the physical space, but the talent piece, right? Because we're here on the college campus, and so not only do we have the students that are learning, that can be a part of a workforce solution. We've got the recent graduates who bring all that knowledge to bear, and then there's also the faculty here, when we're really trying to solve the tough problems, and some of the equipment that's here as well in terms of research equipment. So it's all kind of wrapped up for us. But in other locations, from a manufacturing perspective, it's like, how do we expand? How do we take that capability of producing the quality outputs, whether it's parts or finished products or whatever? How do we expand that? How do we maybe take some areas that aren't in high demand right now and convert them over? So I just wanted to put that out there, and that brings us to the last one, which is the tone has changed. That's my takeaway. So let's rehash for a minute, to show you what I've gone through. I guess I started with bring the tech, right? So that was a key message I heard this week. Bring us the technology, show us what you're doing, show us what's working, let us know, and then. Then in the mix there was also expand the proven, like take things that are working in one area or one silo, if you will, of a certain branch, and the other branches don't even take advantage of it, even though they have similar demands. But maybe we, as the technology or the manufacturing, solution producers, can be that communication across it. But as I'll tell you, they're really got a different approach, I think, and I think we're going to see changes where there's a lot of cooperation between the branches and so forth. But let's expand those proven examples, whether they're on the commercial side or already on the defense side, and bring them to bear, and then tell them what you have. Use the tools that are being set up, whether they are individual agencies that are there to bring the solutions to those who need it, the branches that need it, the commands that need it, or whether it's independent organizations, assistance organizations that are doing that. But use the tools that are out there, the data gathering things like the links system and so on. I heard that a lot this week. They're really looking for that to be a great information exchange. So take advantage of it. Make sure that that's your billboard, that you're there to do business with the Defense Industrial Base and what it is that you bring to the table. And then we just talked about converting the facilities. If we can't get there fast enough with what we have, we got to think outside of the traditional places and kind of in settings where we're building, developing, creating parts, creating finished products, maybe convert some facilities that make a lot of sense. I don't even know what they were talking about, but I overheard somebody talking about all these empty shopping malls, and so I don't know if they're going to build jets and shopping malls. I think it had more to do with maybe training and so on. But yeah, that's the way the thought process was. If we have underutilization in some areas and we can convert that to this high demand sector, let's do it. Let's change things. And my takeaway, having been in kind of the solution provider space for over 25 years now, to me, the tone was completely different this week. And what do I mean by that? I mean, historically, if I were to go to events that seem to have focus in defense in general or with one of the branches or whatever, seemed like there were people walking around that were with certain commands, and you knew they had X amount of dollars in their budget, and this other one had so many dollars in their budget, and they just kind of maybe looked over your head a little bit, and you really had to work to get their attention, and it was probably going to take a really long time. And sometimes you were just discouraged to say you're not going to get there. They're looking to award that to a certain kind of solution provider or what have you. But a lot of that has been moved aside. And one of the things I heard this week was, don't worry so much about the certifications as a defense supplier. Instead, worry about solving the problems for the warfighter, right? Stay focused on what the challenge is right now for the warfighter to get their mission done, and bring your solution forward that addresses it. Number one, understand the problem that you're able to solve. Explain what it is all about, explain what solution you have and how it's going to solve it, and then how you can deliver it and scale it up, so that as we grow and as the demand grows, that you can continue to do that. That's going to be more important than, talking to this individual or coming at it from a certain perspective or location or what have you. So to me, the tone has changed there. The tone has also changed in terms of how these opportunities are going to be pursued. And so many of these breakout sessions, where it was like the 5 or 6, maybe 4 or 5 or 6 representatives in each one, because it corresponded to someone was having oversight to whatever that area was. And I earlier gave the corrosion example, so that we had the guy who's like the Department of War corrosion guy. I didn't call him the guru or whatever, but he's like Mr. Corrosion, right? But who did he have at the table? Not his direct reports necessarily within his department, but who is working on corrosion in the Air Force, who's working on it in the Navy on the ship side, who's working on it in the Army Corps of Engineers from a structural side, versus the Army folks that are working on it from like a vehicle or a platform side. So just looking at all those elements, and right there, you just see it all being brought together. And it does a couple things. One is it allows the solution providers not to have to tailor a solution to a particular problem that one branch is focused on at that time, but rather, how can these solutions address the issues across the entire defense ecosystem? And so I think that is a big difference. And that's really exciting. That's a tone difference. And I think also the whole idea that, we have the money and you got to come to us, and hopefully the right words to say, and the special things to ways to say them and whatnot. And if you're really lucky, you might be able to subcontract to these 5 companies, because they're basically going to run everything anyway. That's not what I'm hearing. I'm hearing about diversification in terms of solution providers. Will the primes, the major primes, still be playing a huge role? Absolutely. But will we also see significant contributions from smaller businesses and smaller contributors that maybe aren't even historically in this space? Heck, we had leaders coming from Silicon Valley that are starting up defense companies, right? Which is, has been unheard of, but there they are. And so up and down the chain, it's not so much of how big you are and how long have you been doing this and so on, but what is the challenge to the warfighter? What solution do you have? Has it been proven? And if it has, great. If it hasn't, that doesn't mean, we're walking away. It means there's other processes to help bring that along and demonstrate that. There was some research, some of the research labs were there talking about those things, how we bring along these technologies. But if it is proven, and if it's proven in the defense space, then let's find the other applications in the defense space to take advantage of it. And if it's only proven on the commercial side, let's figure out how to bring that around as well. So just a completely different focus in my mind, or messaging. And the messaging was consistent, and it was consistent from, the individual program managers who were speaking all the way up to the top level, administration leaders, like people at the SBA and other locations, the messaging was consistent in that. And so that is my takeaway where the tone has changed. And I think it's just a really exciting time to if you've got some solutions or you want to be a part and want to be contributing to this really important defense industrial base and what we're trying to do and what we really need to do in the coming years and very, very quickly and very, very soon. So I want to thank you for taking some time today to join with me just to hear my take on this week at DBIX, the Defense Industrial Base Accelerator. I didn't mention so far in this, one of the really impressive outcomes. It didn't really fall into one of my neat categories, but my wife and I have been longtime watchers of Shark Tank. We kind of get a kick out of, seeing the whole process of, the people with the money, listening to the business plans and picking them apart. And, hopefully we learn from that a little bit as we're being entertained. But I'll tell you what, I've never watched an episode of where at the end of the episode, they handed out $25 million of investment. And that's what happened this week. A Shark Tank-like session with the money already allocated for this purpose. And at the end of these, I don't know what it was, 5-minute, 10-minute presentations, I think there was like 6 awards. And when you heard what they were awarding, it's just fascinating. Like, the biggest, the big one I think was in materials, right? Some of these like rare earth minerals that we're really struggling with in the supply chain. People are like finding ways to recycle that from like mine tailings and concentrating it and these other sources. It was really exciting to hear. And then at the end of it, 20 plus million dollars is and the giant checks were handed out, which was a nice touch. So so if there was ever any doubt that this was just lip service or whether they're really serious, I don't think you can get any more serious than that. Is handing out the checks at the event and saying, we got to go, it's time to go, let's hit the ground running, let's get it done. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening in. If you've got some feedback for me, please reach out. You can DM me on LinkedIn. I'd like to have some more conversations about this. I'm sure I missed a lot from what other people's perspectives were. I'm sure some people enjoyed seeing Mike Rowe there talking about, how do we get the people into these dirty jobs or really needed jobs? But for me, it was a good week, and I wanted to share that. So thank you so much, and I look forward to your comments and to taking this forward. Take care.